America will avenge their deaths and deliver the most punishing blow to the terrorists who have waged war against basically civilization.
All right, we'll first begin with some latest developments that is coming in from this war situation taking place at the moment. Of course, we begin with President Donald Trump, who has said he has shortlisted 3 names to lead Iran after he launched a war to topple Tehran's ruling clerics.
Trump told the New York Times that he won't reveal the names right now, but first get the job done. Now, U.S. President Donald Trump has vowed to avenge the death of U.S. servicemen in the war against Iran. Trump said that the combat operation in Iran that began on Saturday will continue until all objectives are achieved. He said he's preparing for around 4 weeks of conflict and warned that there could be more casualties.
Israel and Hezbollah, on the other hand, are trading fire. Israel says it is striking Hezbollah targets across Lebanon after the group said it launched rockets and drones at Israel.
Lebanese Prime Minister Nawaf Salam has condemned rocket fire launched at Israel, calling it irresponsible and suspicious. Explosions have been reported at the Royal Air Force Base, Akrotiri. This is one of the 2 British bases in Cyprus, along with Tekilia. The UK's Ministry of Defence has confirmed to local media houses that it is responding to a suspected Iranian drone strike. And this is after UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer gave the US permission to use British bases for defensive strikes.
And Iran continues its counter-attack on Israel and U.S. military bases in West Asia. There are visuals coming in from Bahrain, where thick smoke was seen rising above the capital city of Manama. The fire was reportedly coming from the naval base used by U.S. military forces. The base is home to the headquarters of the U.S. Navy's 5th Fleet. There are visuals that are coming in from Ramallah as well, where Iranian missiles can be seen approaching Israel from West Bank.
Iranian missiles have successfully pierced through Israel's air defense systems and hit the ground in Jerusalem area. Medical teams have already reached the site. Several injuries have been reported, but there is no confirmation of casualties coming in from Israel.
Well, to discuss more, we're now being joined live by Dov Sakim, a senior advisor at Center for Strategic and International Studies, and he's joining us from Washington, D.C. Thank you so much for joining us. Always a pleasure talking to you. Of course, we'll start with the latest comments that is coming from President Donald Trump. He has now vowed revenge. How big of a conflict are you seeing right now, and where is this going? Are we looking at more? Of course, he has stated 4 weeks now. So how are you looking at this first?
Well, first of all, General Petraeus once said, how does this end? We don't know how it ends. We don't know how long this will go on. It's clear that President Trump cannot simply sit back and take an attack on American troops. And there will be more attacks. It's the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, which is behind this, is firing at everyone and anyone. I think they've made a massive mistake alienating the Gulf Arabs and Jordan. They are trying desperately to make it difficult for Israel to respond, and that's why they got their proxy Hezbollah to start firing. But remember, the Israelis have really weakened Hezbollah, and this could be the end of Hezbollah if the Israelis go all out against them and leave the attacks on Iran to the United States. The war is clearly widening, but that's because Iran wants to widen it. And the leadership of Iran, whoever they are right now, probably mostly the IRGC, the Revolutionary Guard Corps, is desperate to hold on to power no matter what. And therefore, they will fire at anyone and any place that they think can cause damage and perhaps get Trump to back down. They don't understand Donald Trump. The number one thing that troubles Trump, and he will avoid like the plague, is to be called a weakling, a coward, or a loser. He is not going to back down. And therefore, this thing could go on perhaps longer than some people thought.
Mr. Zakim, now let me just take it from Iran's side. The attacks that we're seeing across US bases in the region, there's no doubt on that, across airports in the Gulf region. But let me come to these specific points. The Dubai port was targeted recently. Maritime facility in Bahrain was targeted. The Strait of Hormuz has been blocked. And today, as markets are anticipating now, they've already seen a jump, which is the largest in the last 4 years as the markets are reacting. Is that Iran's play?
Well, of course. I mean, Iran wants to destabilize as much as it can so that there's pressure on the United States. It's not really Israel anymore. It's the pressure on Donald Trump to say, okay, enough is enough, and we've done a lot of damage, and now we can go home, essentially. The trouble is, Trump cannot do that now that American troops have been killed by the Iranians. He simply cannot back down. As for oil prices, you have to remember that Iran was shipping oil, but nowhere near what it used to ship. And on the other hand, OPEC Plus have now said they will ramp up oil production to compensate, not to mention the fact that the largest oil producer in the world happens to be the United States. So, yes, the Strait of Hormuz is closed. That really hurts all the Gulf states inside the strait. That's just going to alienate them even more. They will allow Americans, if they haven't already, to use their airspace. They are firing defensively, and perhaps at some point they're going to start acting on offense, and they will say it's defensive. And the Gulf states actually have pretty good air forces, and they could supplement what we're already doing. I think the Iranians have made a huge strategic mistake. But again, if their primary priority is simply to stay in power, they will do whatever it takes to do that.
And that being said, because you mentioned, of course, we're talking about the Strait of Hormuz, but there are still shipping companies who, for example, Maersk has said that it is halting its passage there. That, of course, it will be influencing global, it's not just Maersk, of course, it's Dubai. These all countries, this strait, how important this is. So it's not just about that. And we have seen numbers right now. How is that impacting? Because, of course, we can say that the U.S. is the biggest producer, but we're talking about trade that takes place in those regions, West Asia region, because it's not just Hormuz, but now it's the Gulf states that are taking place. These attacks are on Gulf states.
Well, absolutely. I mean, there's no question it's going to affect trade. And we haven't seen the Houthis come in yet, and they might as well.
Yes.
And if the Houthis come in, they'll shoot at the Red Sea, at shipping in the Red Sea. There's no doubt the Iranians want to disrupt as much as they can, but they're playing with fire, because it's not just the United States. Look at Britain. As you reported, Prime Minister Starmer is now allowing American aircraft to operate out of Britain. He initially said no. And of course, now the Iranians have hit at British bases, and you can expect that British aircraft will be supporting American aircraft as they have in the past. So you've got the British who are alienated. You've got the Arabs who are alienated. I don't know where the Chinese are going to be. Yes, they're friendly with Iran and they've given them some support, but they don't want destabilization either. They don't want oil prices to go through the roof. They don't want trade to collapse in the Western Asia, because that affects their economy, and their economy is not very strong. And of course, the Russians are totally preoccupied with Ukraine. The way the Iranians are behaving now, frankly, is the way Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan behaved in the last year of the war, doing anything and everything, whether it was rational, whether it was not rational, simply to stay in power. And of course, we know what happened to Germany and Japan.
All right, I hear you. So because you've mentioned, of course, Russia, Ukraine, and also UK ready to, of course, give their bases. France, and you're right, France, Germany, UK, they have said that they are ready to take any defensive action. But the question is, can they do that, considering the fact that the Russia-Ukraine war is taking place? How wider of a war are we looking at now?
Well, I don't think that the Russians will go anywhere other than keep on trying to gain some ground in Ukraine. And as we know, they've gained very, very little in 4 years. But their whole war economy really is geared to the Ukraine war. Let me put it this way. One man's defensive weapon is another man's offensive weapon. And clearly, if Germany and France are supporting the American effort, it may be in a way that is, from the Iranian point of view, offensive, not merely defensive. And I think that's the same with the UK. I would also point out, very, very important difference, say, between what's going on now and the Iraq war, which, when I was in the Pentagon, during the Iraq war, the French and the Germans really didn't want to have any part of it. Here you're seeing the French and the Germans being clearly supportive. Defensive weapons today, if the Iranians hit them like they've hit the British, who knows? Maybe the French will come in as well. As I say, the Iranians are firing at anybody and everybody, at civilians, not just at bases. They've gotten Hezbollah spun up. They'll probably try to get the Houthis involved. They can't do very much with Hamas because the Israelis are there, but they'll do whatever they can. They are clearly desperate. They know they're on their last legs. They know that at least half the country opposes them. Who knows how big that percentage is? And as I think I've mentioned on this program before, the Iranian army has not stepped in one way or another. And they are what you might call a wild card. We don't know what they're going to do.